So I said to you last day for lesson 3 that lesson 3 and 4 are the two most important lessons of the unit. If I do my job right, if you wrap your brain around today, everything else I do should be, oh, I didn't know that, but yeah, that makes sense. It fits into what I already know. So this is applications of acceleration. And I wrote here to solve a problem, remember DFIC. This was our list our data, find the equation, insert the numbers and crunch and answer it. Let me show you what I mean. Example 1, an object starts at rest. You know what? We should underline the phrase at rest. It should say starts, not start, but I'll fix that typo. And travels 12 meters over the next 3 seconds while accelerating constantly. Why did I say accelerating constantly? You might remember I said we can handle constant acceleration, but we can't handle changing acceleration. So this is me being nitpicky. Don't let that freak you out. Find, Oh, and what's A want me to find? Sure, that Owen, I was looking at, but that works. You remember doing word problems in math? Word problems in math suck. They're contrived, but they're also very difficult. Well, what do I let be X? What do I let be Y? In physics, it's pretty obvious. Look for the questioning statement. So what do they want me to find? So I'm going to write down A equals question mark. Have I written something down? I feel better. I'm more relaxed. It's no longer a blank question staring at me. And now I'm going through the question, looking for physics words and numbers, and then looking at the units next to any number to figure out what it is. I see at rest. What does that tell me? Okay. If it had said came to a stop, VF would be 0. Okay, so that's what I mean by physics phrases. 12. What's that 12? How do you know it's distance? What are the units next to it? Okay, this is why I said, as much as I hate memorizing stuff, it's worth memorizing what units go with what. And when someone who hates memorizing stuff tells you that something is worth memorizing, it's really worth memorizing. Wake now. Sorry for those of you on YouTube. I'm also noticing that all my units are nice. There's no kilometers or hours or stuff. What's that 3? Okay. I'm looking for I have 3 things. I can find the 4th. I'm looking for an equation on that 3rd line on my green sheet, which I have in front of me, that has an A, a VI, a D, and a T in it. Where's your green sheet, Alessio? With your binder? Okay. No, no. Let me damage his self-esteem. I'll give him a loaner, but let me damage his self-esteem. So Alessio, sure. Which equation? Now, don't write this down. And if you wrote it down, that's okay. Don't write this down. I would say, Alessio, you wasted my time. Okay, so the VIT is 0 since VI is 0. So if you want yet another equation, a special subcase when VI is 0 and you can't make me write extra work, I just need to write the half AT squared. Or if I'm really lazy, I can write it as AT squared over 2. Or if you like decimals, you can write it as 0.5 AT squared. I don't care. Either of those is perfectly acceptable. Now, if you wrote the VIT, will I mark it wrong? No. Will I, in my heart of hearts, shake my head in dismay and just think extra work for no reward? Yeah. What am I trying to get by itself? Owen, how would I get the A by itself in this equation? What's going to drop down like a domino? Yep, keep going. And if it helps, you can put a little dot above the A if you want to, but whatever. So what's right? First of all, are there any plus signs kicking around anywhere? Any minus signs kicking around anywhere? So we're going to do this all by dividing and multiplying. How will I move the T squared over? Can you say it with proud authority and confidence in your voice? That's better. How I'll move this 2 over. And that equals A. Do you mind? Can I put A equals right there? Or, what if I wanted to do it this way, Ethan? How would I get the A by itself? What's the 0.5 doing to the A? What's the t squared doing to the A? So the same equation would also be d over 0.5 t squared. And this goes back to, I think, earlier when we were rewriting equations, Max, dividing by a half, timesing by 2 are the same, but dividing by a half and dividing by 2, not the same. Okay? I don't care which version you use. I think this looks prettier. In math, it's considered bad math manners to have a decimal inside of a fraction. There's no rule against it. There's no rule against you walking around with something dangling from your nose, but it would be considered bad manners to be walking around with something dangling from your nose. So if you want to have friends, take care of the thing that's dangling from. If you want to have math friends, don't put decimals inside of fractions if you can avoid it. But sometimes we won't be able to avoid it without a lot of extra work, and so I'll just say, man, I'm lazy but organized. This is going to be 2 times 12 divided by 9. I can do that in my head. It's going to be 24 over 9, which is going to be 8 over 3. Is it 2.6 repeating?
Yes.
So 2.67 if I go to 3 sig figs. Units, its acceleration. What was that? Are units important? Is that the thing you should always check whenever you complete a question? You should always check to make sure you put your units on there? Always? Yes? Am I grinding my thumb on the emotional bruise of your heart? Maybe. She forgot to put units on a question on the quest and it cost her half. She wasn't the only one. Okay? If you want to, you can put a box around your answer. I'll often do that if I've done a lot of work, or if I know I'm going to use this answer to find another answer if I have to. Okay? I haven't done a very good job of organizing my space because B wants me to find the final speed. I haven't left myself much room. So I'm going to erase the or. You all saw it. And I'm just going to go like this. Ha, B. VF equals question mark. Has anything else changed? Say no. I'm not going to relist all my data since it's right there. Now, if they had said, now find the final speed after 8 seconds, I would probably relist the stuff that I felt comfortable using. I'm looking for an equation that has a VF, a VI, a D, and a T in it. I could use one that has an A. Why would I avoid using one that has an A? If I got this wrong, then I'm getting this wrong too. I'll only use an answer to find an answer if I have to, especially on a test or a quiz. So, which equation, Aiden?
Oh, I used the other one. I already did it. I did the one with the items.
And in my homework, I might, but I would also say, boy, I better make sure I got the first one right. Okay, and I'm a good test writer. I would probably say, oh, I'll do it the other way. Or you know what? If I was writing a test and I had extra time, I would do it both ways. And if I got the same answer both ways, that's how I would check my answer. I would know I got part A right. I think it's the one with brackets, is it not? D equals bracket VI plus VF, no, over 2 times T. Did I give you VI plus VF or did I give you VF plus VI? I can't remember. It doesn't really matter when you're adding 5 plus 3 is 3 plus 5. Ooh, I want to get the VF by itself. Well, the D is going to drop down like a domino. Now what? D2? I think 2D. D2 was the lousy Mighty Ducks sequel, right? It was. Keep going. Over what? T? So that would take care of that and that. And then in my mind, I would say equals VI plus VF. Can you just imagine it there? You can write it if you need to, but if you can imagine it there, how would I get the VF by itself? What is VI? You could write the minus VI, but since it's 0, in fact, I probably could have crossed it out up here, but whatever. So VF is going to be, I can do this in my head too, 2 times 12 divided by 3. Oh, that's easy. 24 divided by 3, 8. Yes? Let's go to 2 or 3 sig figs. So I'll go to 8.0 or 8.00. If you just wrote 8, I won't mark it wrong. No, you got it wrong then. You didn't use your answer button. You used a rounded off answer. On your calculator, you would have had 2.6 repeating just sitting there waiting to be used as your answer button. And instead, you did more typing for less accuracy and more error. That's silly. Meters per second? No, by the way, I'm glad you did that, but I'm going to teach you guys, don't use rounded off answers. If you have an answer on your calculator just sitting there, use it, because that's accurate to about 100. I think your calculators typically go to 99 sig figs. Well, 99 data points anyways. All right. Example 2. Let's swim with dolphins. A dolphin accelerates from 1 meter per second to 7.6 meters per second in 5.5 seconds. Find A, the acceleration. Okay. Danvir, I'm coming at you. What's part A you want me to find? Gotta just read, don't panic. So find, and then it says, what? You're right. Say it again, you're right.
Acceleration.
What's my symbol for acceleration? A equals question mark. What's that 1.0? The fact that it's meters per second, it's a velocity. Is it initial or final? And you're going to have to figure that part out, Annika, from the time flow of the sentence. And that part I really can't help you with, except to say, just read carefully. So you're telling me VI is 1.0, but I'm not going to bother writing the 0.0. What's that 7.6? How do you know it's a velocity? Meters per second. What's that 5.5? Are all my units nice units, or do I have to do any conversions? So if I'd noticed that there was yucky units, I would have put the units next to them, but I'm lazy. They're all good. I'm looking for an equation that has an A, a VI, a VF, and a T in it. There is one. Stop. Did you hear what he said? Say it again, loud. Say it again. You said it wrong. Say it again.
Equals VI plus AT.
Stare at it, look at it, look at it, look at it. I could write, keep looking at it. I could write it down, but can you rewrite the equation in your head to get the A by itself?
A equals VF minus VI over.
If you can do that, I am totally fine if you go straight to this step. If you want to skip writing out the original equation. The way I mark these, by the way, on a test, these will almost always be worth 2 marks. I will almost always give you 1 mark just for finding the correct equation, half mark for the work, half mark for the answer. So you can pass just by finding the equation, although most of you will do better than that. Okay? Really, the only time I'll get annoyed is if you leave a question totally blank, because if you list your data, you should be able to figure out which equation has those things. Take some practice. Keep going. It's going to be 7.6 minus 1 all over 5.5. I can do this in my head too. 7.6 minus 1, 6.6 over 5. Divided by 11, divided by 11. It's going to be 6 over 5. 1.2? No? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll go to 3 sig figs just because I can. Units. And then I put a box. That's my, spiking the football after the touchdown, or little happy dance when I get my present or whatever. You don't have to, but I tend to. B. Now, to find the distance traveled, I could use D equals VIT plus a half AT squared, but you know what? If I can avoid using A, I'll try to. What equation? Is the D by itself already? Hey, it's a win. So it's going to be 1 plus 7.6 times 5.5 all over. Do that one in your head, Mr. Duke? Well, maybe. Let me see. 8.4. It's going to be 4.2 times 5.5 ish. 4.2 times 5 is going to be 21. Oh, maybe. 21 plus 2. Is it 23.1? No. I'm way off. Okay, I got to break out the calculator now. 23 point what? Oh, I forgot to carry a decimal. That was dumb of me. I could put the whole top in brackets. I've played around with my calculator, and I know that if I write it like this, it assumes the multiplying is on top of the fraction. So I've learned how to minimize bracket typing, but you'll have to play around with your calculator. Most of you have the fancy fraction button anyways. 23.65. If I go to 3 sig figs, I'll call it 23.7. Units. Meters. Next page over. Cool. Kiana, what's A want me to find? Yep. How far? I think probably displacement technically, but you're going to notice I'm really sloppy with distance and displacement even after teaching all this time. How far? And we're not really going to include a direction. Forward would be our assumed direction here. All right. What's that 30? It's a velocity. Yeah, which one? Initial, you say? What's that 6.8? How do you know it has to be an acceleration? Meters per second squared. Uh-oh. I've only written 2 things. I need 3 things. There's one more piece of information. There's a physics word I should have underlined. I probably should have underlined the word stopping. What's V final? And Max noticed something else. You didn't hear him. I pointed at him and I kind of cut him off. What else? How do you know it should be negative? If you missed that, you would get a strange answer. And I want you to develop the habit of looking at your calculator and asking, do I trust this? We ran into that a little bit, those of you that were here for the lab yesterday as well. You cannot trust your calculator. It's pretty good, but it can't read your mind. It doesn't know what you want. Kiana, I'm looking for an equation that has a D, a VI, an A, and a VF in it. There is one. By the way I do these, I do a process of elimination. What have I not even written here? Time. So read me the only equation without a T. That's how I do it. Yep. She's correct, but don't write that down. Look at the equation. Look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it, look at it. You got your green sheet out, you're looking at it. What are we trying to get by itself? The D. What's going to drop down like a domino? Good, let's do that. Then what? What's right next to the D? I think a 2 and an A. What are they doing to the D? So, wait for it, wait for it. What else on the same side? I got to be fussy. A VI squared? How do I move the VI squared over? What's the VI squared doing to the D? So, I love that. Oh, adding. If you follow the breadcrumbs, they're all hidden in the equation for you. How do I move the VI squared over? Then, which one am I going to do first? Reverse bed mass. Minus VI squared all over 2a. And then, Kiana, do you mind? Can I put the d equals right there? Mr. Dewick? Yeah. VF is 0. Couldn't you have been lazy and not bothered writing it? Because it was by itself, it was the whole side, the left side. I didn't want to make it vanish right away because then when I drop something down, I don't have any reference. I have nothing to drop down, and I'm liable to make a silly mistake. So I kind of held off there. Hey, let's keep going. 0 squared minus 30 squared all over 2 times negative 6.8. Kiana, is this a fraction? Is this a fraction? Yes. Is there more than one thing on the top? Brackets are on the top. Is there more than one thing on the bottom? Brackets are on the bottom, unless you have one of the fancy calculators with the 2-line display. Amazingly, my graphing calculator does not offer that option. 0 squared minus 30 squared. I probably could have got away without typing the 0 squared. Divided by bracket 2 times negative 6.8. 66.17, 66.2. Yeah. No. It's not negative. Okay. This car was traveling forwards and slowing down and coming to a stop. When it stopped, was it in front of where it started? Better get a positive displacement. Okay. And that's going to be meters. B. Other Owen. What's B want me to find? Now, how long is a tricky phrase? You're right, it's time. Because I can say, how long is a football field? Which definitely means distance. But if I say, how long was the movie? You all understand time. So I said, how long? I'm not sure. But then I said, we just found the distance in part A. They wouldn't ask me to find the distance. It's got to be time. I agree. Oh, and is it also stopping just like in part A? So yes. Then, because nothing's changed, I'm not going to relist the rest of the data. I could, but I'm lazy but organized. I'll try and avoid using D if I can. So, Owen, can you find an equation that has a T, a VI, and A, and a VF in it? There is one. Read it. Please stop saying the first ones. They're in a random order. That's not an order that the physics textbook gives you. So read it. Stop. Get the T by itself. Can you? So let's see if we can. T equals, what's going to drop down like a domino, Owen? No. The V at the left, right, the other side. What else is on the same side as, stare at it, don't look up, look at the equation on your green sheet. What else is on the same side as the T? There's an A, yes? What's the A doing to the T? So, later, what's the VI doing to the T? So, which one am I doing for? Reverse BADMAS. Minus the VI divided by A. Now, if you're not quite comfortable with that stage, probably by the end of the week you will be, and I really encourage you to get there. If I can do that, what that also means is for the rest of the year, anytime I show you how to do a question going forwards and finding an answer, as far as I'm concerned, I can give you the answer and have you go backwards and find where we started from. And I don't need to teach it, you can just figure it out on your own. Keep going, Owen. What was VF? We listed it. Yep. Minus, what was VI? All over. What was A? Negative 6.8. Time is a scalar. Time will always be positive. If you ever get a negative time, you've made a mistake. Time cannot be negative. Let's look, George looked once and they went backwards. No, time cannot be negative. So, 0 minus 30 divided by negative 6.8. Owen, do you get 4.4117? How about 4.41? Oh, he's still typing. Make sure all of you are typing these in. If you're just sitting here waiting for me to type them, I gotta say that's dumb, because you're sitting here anyways. You're setting yourself up. Every year I have some kid who has all the right work on the test and all the wrong answers, and I know it's because that kid was too foolish to bother figuring out how their calculator worked during class. And your job is, if you're not getting the right answers during class, raise your hand, call me. I can almost always, because it's going to be almost always something unique to the operating system of your calculator, and I can figure it out. I'm a calculator nerd, but I won't if you don't try. 4.41, yes, Owen? Yeah, yeah? Are you lying to me? You got it? Same as me? So let's go to 3 sig figs, 4.41. Units, time. Units, time. Seconds. Good. Cool. Annika, what's example 4 want me to find? A equals question mark? What's that 15? What's that 5? Yep. Seeing why it's worth memorizing units? What's that 85? Got to be a distance, I think, displacement, but sure. Looking for an equation that has a D, a VI, an A, and a T in it. There is one. Yeah. I don't know. You just wrote them down. Psst. She's got to figure this out on her own. Don't help people. Not during the lesson. And I know you want to be nice, but they've got to struggle through this on their own. So go ahead, read and AT squared. And if you want to write that down, you can, because this is a fairly complicated equation, but let's see if we can get the A by itself. So Annika, can you stare at that equation on your green sheet? Stare at it, keep looking at it. What side is the A on? What's going to drop down like a domino? Then what? You're going to find as we get better and better, I give you less and less hints. So normally I would have said something like, what's right next to the A? Now I'm saying, then what? What am I going to do next? What is right next to the A? And? Or a 0.5, whichever is easy. Okay, so there's a 0.5 or a 1/2 t squared. What are they doing to the A? How will I move those over? But there's other stuff on that side. What else is on the same side? What's the VIT doing? So, and reverse bad mass. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to minus the VIT. Yes? And then divide by, look up. Everybody look up. You can divide by a 1/2 t squared, but I know a fraction inside of a fraction looks yucky. So this is where one of the only times where I might say it probably looks better to put a 0.5 t squared down there. And that equals A, but do you mind? Can I put A equals here? Other things, can you all look up for a second? Everybody? It's V with a subscripted I. I've seen a few people, you're writing this, VI like that. That's actually V times I, and believe it or not, in Physics 12, that will mean something different. So when we're using our subscripts, make sure they're tiny little subscripts, okay? Keep going, Annika. What was D? Keep going. What was D? Which one of those? 85? Yep. And then minus, what's VI? What's T? All over 0.55 squared. I think I can do this in my head. Sure. 15 times 5 is 50 plus 75, 85. It's going to be 10. It's going to be 20, 20 over 25. 0.8?
Yeah.
Yeah? I can do math in my head. I can do math in my head. And just to make it look more impressive, I'll go to 2 sig figs. Just, ooh, I did that in my head. Is it? You got that okay? And acceleration, units? Meters per, yes. Is that a big acceleration? Those of you that were here yesterday might recall that 1g was negative 9.8, negative 10. If we remove the negative, this is almost 1/10 of a g, not big. Example 5. So trying to show you some applications, one area this is used is in runway design. A jet airliner needs a takeoff velocity of 288 kilometers per hour. Ding, 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 ding. Yucky units. I'm going to have to do a conversion in order to safely leave the ground. If the jet's engines can accelerate the jet forward at 3.5 meters per second squared, these are pretty accurate numbers. I Googled some 747 specifications. What's the minimum length of the runway? You know what I would do first, even right now, before I jumped in? I would deal with that kilometers per hour. How do I convert kilometers per hour to meters per second? It's something to do with a 3.6, but I can't remember. Is it divide? Can you all on your calculator right now go 288 divided by 3.6? What do you get? Even, 80 even? And here's what I would then do. I would actually cross this out and I would write above it 80 meters per second. And that way I can't even accidentally write down the wrong number. Now, let's solve this. Ariana, what's example 5 asking me to find? D equals question mark. Good. What's that 80? It's the velocity. Yeah, initial or final? Final? Oh, I've heard someone say initial. I've heard someone say final. The good news is one of you's right. Oh, that's how fast we're going at the end of the runway? Final? Okay, I agree with that. What's that 3.5, Ariana? Yep. Problem, Mr. Duick. I only know 2 things. I need 3 things to find the 4th. What else do I know, even though the question didn't tell me? I've never seen a plane take a running start on a runway. They come to a stop because they got to wait for clearance. So I think we can safely say that. Fair? Yes? Which equation? Yeah, you. Stop. Get the D by itself, please. I got that. D equals. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Let's keep going. Sorry? Well, I thought you were saying VF squared, so I should be hearing some squareds and things in that equation. Should I not be? Get the D by itself, please. So we're looking at that as Owen, like the 4th equation. Yeah, they're not numbered, but that's the last equation there. Get the D by itself. What? Say it again. I think you thought it right and said it wrong. Yeah. Because I think you thought it right, but I think but what you thought didn't make it quite to your vocal cords. What's going to drop down like a domino? Okay, so the VF squared. Yep. I don't think you said VF squared initially, the first time. Okay. Now again, if you're having trouble getting there, don't freak out, but don't quit on me. Resist the temptation to start plugging in numbers. There's always one student, oh, put in numbers. I'm more comfortable. You're doing yourself a disservice. Let's keep going. VF is 80 squared minus 0 squared all over 2 times 3.5. How long does this runway need to be if we're designing this airport? This is the fraction, brackets around the top. Probably didn't need to type the 0 squared. Do you get 914.285 that? So I'll go 914 meters, 3 sig figs. Now, of course, in real life, you'd probably triple that for safety because you're also assuming the plane isn't backing its tail off the runway so that its back tires are right on the edge of the pavement, and you don't want its front tires hitting the edge of the pavement right before it takes off. So you probably triple that or whatever, but it better be at least that long. Example 6. Let's go back to when you're 7 years old. You're on the playground. It's a beautiful sunny day and no one's on the slide. You got it all to yourself. Child slides down a playground slide, accelerating from rest. I should probably underline the phrase from rest. And traveling 6 meters in 4.80 seconds. When they hit the ground, their legs bend 20 centimeters. Blech. 20 centimeters. How many meters? It's 0.2. So if you're looking for a shortcut to go from centimeters to meters, it's divide by 100 because there's 100 centimeters in 1 meter. So let's cross that out and replace it with a 0.2 meters. As the child stops, how fast does the child hit the ground, and what is the child's acceleration in stopping? I like this question. I like this question. I like this question. Why would I say that? Did you hear me say it's going to be a quiz? No, you just paid attention to when a teacher tends to emphasize things? Good, 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 good. Alessio, what does A want me to find? So in physics terms, what does it want me to find? I think V final. What does B want me to find? Isn't V final 0 for part A? I think this question has 2 parts. On the slide and on the ground. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to divide my page into 2, and here is going to be slide, and here is going to be ground. Now, how did I figure that out? Because there's 2 distances. There's a 6 with the meters, and there's a 0.2 with the meters. Something weird's going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to list all of my data and decide slide or ground as I listed. So from rest, what does that tell me, first of all? VI is 0. From rest, is that on the slide? So six, what's that? Well, it's meters, so it's the distance. Is that the distance on the slide, or is that the distance while on the ground? 4.8, what's that? Is that the time sliding on the slide, or is that the time once you're on the ground? Point 2. It's meters, got to be a distance on the slide or on the ground. There's one more word I probably should have underlined. Stops. That's a velocity on the slide or on the ground. V initial or V final on the ground? So you ready? When he hits the ground at the beginning, how fast is he traveling? 0? No. So stopping, that's got to be V final. Okay. What's A want me to find, Alessio? Hit the ground, you say. So I think I'm over here. So over here, what's it asking me to find? How fast means velocity, initial or final. A wants me to find that. Yeah, we put all that together? By the way, this is a tough question. Don't kid yourself. Why is this impossible right now? How many things do I know? On the ground side, how many things do I know? I need 3 to find the 4th. There's a candy if somebody can tell me how I can do this. What was that? Which one am I going to use from the slide? Now, I want you to notice how many things do I know on the slide side. It means I can find 5 things there. Dan Veer, you look like you have an idea. Oh, okay. So I thought that pencil, I thought that was a. Can we see it?
Is it time?
You think it took them 4.8 seconds to come to a stop once they hit the ground? Max.
Acceleration on the slide side.
So the acceleration down the slide will be the same as the acceleration when they hit the ground? So figure it out. We've already said it's not acceleration. Distance is 6. Distance, not that. Isn't how fast we hit the ground the same as our initial velocity once we start coming to a stop? In other words, isn't this number, when I calculate it, actually that number? If I'm making numbers up, if at the bottom of the slide, if I hit the ground at 5 meters per second, how fast was I traveling when I began to stop? 5 meters. This is that. How fast I'm traveling at the bottom of the slide is how fast I'm traveling at the beginning of hitting the ground. That's a tricky concept. Which equation? I got a VI, a D, a T, and a VF. Get the VF by itself. The D is going to drop down like a domino. 2D minus VI, that equals VF. What's VI, by the way, here? So will minusing 0 make a difference at all? The speed that we hit the ground at is going to be 2 times 6 divided by 4.8. Question? Danvir, it's a good question. That's VF equals 2D over T. That's what you get for sitting in the back row. It's going to be 12 over 4.8. Is it 0.25? Yes, 2.5. Move the decimal wrong. Jeez, do it. By the way, in this question, because it makes the math easier, I think we're letting down be positive. because you could make an argument that you could call that negative, but since we got a positive answer, how about for this whole question, down will be positive because it'll keep the math nicer. And there's my answer to part A, 2.5 meters per second. I've scrolled down. What does part B want me to find? Stopping on the slide or on the ground? So now part B wants me to find A equals question mark. Look up. I know D. I know VF. I know VI. I got three things. I can find the fourth. Which equation? Get the A by itself. I don't know, by the way, I know it's uncomfortable right now, but if you reach the point where you can do this, I've done you such a favor. So push yourself. The VF squared drops down like it's going to be A equals VF squared, I can tell you that. So it's going to be 0 squared minus 2.5 squared all over 2 times 0.2. What do you get? I might be able to do that in my head. 25 squared is 625, so 2.5 squared is 6.25. Divided by 2 is 3.125 times 16 point something, I think. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe 17 point something. Oh, but negative. Get negative. Negative 15 point something?
625.
Sorry?
Negative 15.625.
Negative 15.6?
Yeah.
Meters per second squared. Why negative? Okay, because we let down be positive, then slowing down would be up, which is negative. Okay? We could also have let down be negative, in which case we would have got a positive answer because we had defined anything pointing up to be positive, and they are technically accelerating up when they're slowing down. Just shy of 2 G's. By the way, if you bent your knees more, don't write this down, if you could make that distance bigger, if this right there got bigger, what happens to the acceleration? Smaller. You all figure this out when you're toddlers. A lot of what you're doing as toddlers is you're calibrating your ability to survive a fall from a height. And so you learn very quickly when you jump off playgrounds, you don't land stiff-kneed. You bend your knees because really what you're doing is you're increasing D so that smaller acceleration on your body, right? Which, you know, Captain Obvious, but I always like to show you why stuff works. That's why you learn that as a child. Kind of neat. Another place you can use this is in accident investigation. So if any of you are thinking about going into the RCMP officer is investigating a car crash. Oh, I like this question. At the scene of the accident, there are skid marks that are 32.5 meters long. The driver of the car was speaking on a cell phone during the accident, and the cell phone happens to record the sound of the skid for 1.2 seconds. The speed limit on the road was 60 kilometers per hour. The driver says he was not speeding. There are no witnesses. Should the driver be charged with speeding? We need to find what? Which one? VI or VF? What's VF in any car accident ever? I will not tell you that again. We will assume that in any car accident ever, the final velocity is 0. There's no car accident that's just still skidding on forever in each, okay? So is that fair enough? So this wants us to find VI. So let's write down VI equals question mark. Oh, and VF equals 0. Ha-ha! What's that 32.5? How do you know? Yep. What's that 1.2? What's that 60? I'm not going to use that. I'm going to solve for VI, and if it's bigger than 60, get a ticket. If it's smaller than 60, which equation? Yep. I like that. Could you get the VI by itself for me, please? So you know what? This one is tricky enough. I'll write it out. Talk me through it, Deegan. What's going to drop down like a domino? May as well do that, and that way, you know, we're more relaxed. Reverse bed mass, so we'll do the inside of the brackets last. Outside of the brackets, what's the T doing? So, what's the 2 doing? So, and then I would have a VI plus VF. So, what's the VF doing to the VI? So, now technically it's minus VF, that equals VI, but what's VF as a number exactly? If it wasn't 0, I would have left it there, and in your homework there will be a couple where VF isn't 0. Okay, so I'm going to get VI equals 2 times 32.5 divided by 1.2. Do you get 54.16 repeating?
Yes, it is. Meters per second.
So are we charging this person?
Yes, yes, we are.
So you could go work for Verizon. What are the units here? This is 54.2. I'll use 16 meters per second. How do I convert that to kilometers per hour? Now, if I'm Aiden, I would write 54.2 times 3.6, but all of us instead will go answer button times 3.6. Since it's way less work, it's more accurate, and it's less room for error. In kilometers per hour, how fast is this person traveling? You could, in a court of law, use this. If they had injured somebody, you could charge them with vehicular manslaughter. This would totally hold up. By the way, it's at least that fast because they might have slowed down before skidding. Okay.
I've never said this guy drunk.
Now, I like this question. I like this question. I like this question. One thing I don't like, because right now you don't know much physics, I had to make up the fluke that the cell phone recorded the sound of the skid. Later on this year, we'll revisit this question, and I'll show you how actually from nothing but the length of the skid mark, you can calculate how fast they must have been traveling. But I have to teach you how to calculate the force of friction first, and that's, well, I was going to say, that's after Christmas. No, that's going to be in about a week and a half or two, whatever we are on this weird quarterly system. Okay, so we will revisit this. But for now, I had to contrive that, oh, we got the time of the skid marks at least. Okay, what's your homework? I think you can do every single question here. You probably want to do these on a separate piece of paper. If for some of them you feel you can rewrite the equation in your head, see it, see the numbers plugged in your head, go straight to your calculator and hit equals. And if you're getting the right answer, I put the answer in brackets next to each question. If you just write down the answer, I will assume you weren't foolish enough to cheat, that you were good with that. Okay? And try the challenge question. I haven't explained that one yet. 19 and 20, well, 19 and the challenge are very tricky. See if you can figure it out.